On behalf of Middlesex University and the organizing committee, I would like to welcome you all to the conference. It has taken us quite a while to organize this conference. We are all very glad to see it actualized today. This international conference is the first of its kind to bring Turkish Cypriot, Greek, Turkish and other academics and writers from different disciplines together to consider vital issues of nationality and cultural identity as expressed in the Turkish and Greek language literatures, in intention of creating a new bicommunal and multicultural approach. The purpose of this conference is to put on the agenda post-national understanding for the literatures and language of Cyprus, Greece, and Turkey. This conference views itself on the development of a critique of nationalisms in the domain of literatures in Turkish and Greek languages. Cypriots, both Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots, have been central to the crafting of this literary critique of nationalism, mainly because they have suffered most intensely from the consequence of nationalisms. In this spirit, we join our minds, inspirations, and efforts here to challenge existing literary discourses in the region concerned. As much as it attempts to transit nationalism, this conference also means to ask questions about the terms of bicommunalism and multiculturalism. It is so obvious that Cypriot community is not monolingual and monocultural, but it has been argued. Bicommunalism assumes that other Cypriots, such as Maronites, Armenians, Latin Catholics, Arabs, and others, don't exist, and many Cypriots of mixed background now study as hybrid, found themselves having to identify with one of the two communities in conflict. They are bilingual or multicultural literatures have not been recognized or documented enough. In that case, is multiculturalism a better term to describe the situation? It appears that we need to ask questions about this category as well, because the Eurocentric roots of multiculturalism marginalizes the other as outsider and pushes the other into a pigeonhole of authenticity in the name of respect to the other cultures, just like colonialism had done. We can see this particularly in Turkish literature, studied as post-colonial, which replaced Third World by Westerners, even though Turkey was never colonized. On the other hand, Cyprus was colonized, but is not even studied under the terms of post-coloniality. We can observe this orientalizing even in Western approach to modern Greek literature, which ironically based European literature on the ancient Greeks. Perhaps it is the very definition of Europe and European culture and literature then that need to be questioned from our perspectives. Whether they are Muslim or Orthodox background, Turkish or Greek writing, aren't the people of Cyprus, Turkey, and Greece historically and traditionally a part of Southeastern Europe? From the margins, we can ask further questions about the centers. The center, however, is not only invested in Europe. I must mention that at times Turkish Cypriot and Greek Cypriot literatures are more marginalized respectively in Istanbul and Athens than they are in London. Because Greece and Turkey, which are still trying to define themselves as homogeneous and unified nation-states, are not ready to recognize pluralities within their languages and literary canons, unlike literature in the English language. On the other hand, the discourse of Orientalism does not leave much room for Turks and Greeks to reconcile. The border between northern and southern Cyprus is taken to be symbolic for more than what it is, as if it represented a cultural distinction between East, which recently means Islam, and West. In saying this, I don't mean to repeat those naive narratives about old good days, which tell us that if it wasn't for the British colonizer, we all lived in peace. In anti-colonialism in Cyprus, even in leftist discourse, was responsible for reproducing nationalism under the name of Hellenism, Turkism, or more recently Cypriotism. A certain kind of Orientalism of Western origin is part of a Greek nationalist attitude to Turks. In wanting to be purely European, Greeks try to eliminate Turkish and Muslim elements from their language, literature, and culture. For the Turk and the Muslim is still understood contradict to the European. This could have two consequences on Turks. One, refusing Ottoman Muslim elements in Turkish language, literature, and culture, and two, accepting Ottoman imperial behavior against the neighbors, particularly Greeks. But we are not here to justify or judge the politics of this or that nation state, but rather to reach an axis for literature which would move beyond any national politics. Turks, Greeks, and Cypriots have been discussing international politics for so long that they have forgotten their common passion for language and literature. As much as two languages, Greek and Turkish, are quite different, there are common idioms, expressions, narratives, and cultural traditions. Especially for Cypriots, bilingual or multilingual literatures are still somehow alive. And yet there is no awareness between Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots of what is written across the border. There is also almost no activity in literary translation. This increases alienation and imaginary conceptions about the other. Ironically, if there were to be a solution to the Cyprus problem tomorrow, new generations will not have a language to speak to each other. This conference, which recognizes this gap in access to literature, is part of an ongoing project that includes a poetry performance and network, as well as trilingual book exhibitions and publications. I would like to thank all the panelists, our guests, and everyone in the audience. Thanks to the member of organizing committee, Mehmet Ali Dikerdem, Maria Hacıbaoğlu Trigorgis, Vangelis Galakikos, and Peter Bush. Special thanks to the European Union for its ongoing support and sponsorship. Thanks to also MPhil Council for its contribution, and the Group for Turkish Cypriot Language, Literature and Culture for taking the initiative. And also Ahmet Gürat'a, Gürgenç Korkmaz, and Barış Uzun Ahmet for their volunteer works. So, thank you.